Hi, thank you for having me here. Great to be. First thing that I'm failing at is having slides. So I feel kind of a little bit out of place because everyone's doing so well, but I haven't got any. So I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to talk about failure, I guess, as circumstantial and failure as it sort of weaves itself through the narrative of your life. I was born in Bosnia, in Sarajevo, and up until the age of 11 had this pretty much perfect life. A very kind of lovely middle-class existence where I thought that really kind of bad things happen to other people, people that you don't know, people whose faces you'll never see. They happen, and particularly the ways I thought about war and conflict is they definitely happen either way back in history, and you're talking about Second World War and First World War, or you're talking about places that are far away on a map to unpronounceable names, people with unpronounceable names. And basically, if you think that bad things will happen to others, they'll never happen to you. So that sort of sounds like a great way to think about life. And so, age 11 in Sarajevo, I was trying to do my homework, and I heard that tomorrow the war will start, which is almost like, you know, it'll snow tomorrow, it'll be a really foggy day, or temperature will suddenly change. And my aunt had heard it in a hairdressing salon in Sarajevo. So I never finished that homework, and my life was very much cut into two halves at that point in April 1992, when I was just 11 years old. But before any of that began, when I was about 9, I had this incredibly cool friend called Martina, who was about 3 years older than me. And of course, anything that Martina did, I had to do, because I had to be as cool as Martina. And what Martina did is she took up writing a diary, and I thought, if she does that, I must do the same. And I'd also read the diary of Adrian Mole, which I don't know if you guys had ever read, sort of immediate sort of laughter, little giggles. I thought, okay, I'm going to keep a diary like Martina, I'm going to be really cool like Martina, I'm going to be really funny like Sue Townsend and Adrian Mole. And I'm going to give my diary a name, and I'll call it Mimi, because I'd read the diary of Anne Frank, and the only thing that I ever thought would be a similarity between Anne Frank and myself was to call this, to give a name to a diary. So there was Mimi, and that Mimi really was recording very banal, happy 11-year-old childhood. But she also was the place where I started recording things that were starting to change in my life and starting to change in my city. Now, there's this kind of weird first month of war, even though it feels like your life is extremely sliced into two halves. There was this weird month where you still believe it's not really happening. You kind of feel it can't, because, you know, it happens to other people, bad things, wars, that happens to other people. So you don't believe it's going to last. And what certain people did is they started leaving. And I'm an only child, and leaving on my own was going to be extremely hard because I'm 11. Where am I going to go age 11 on my own? If I go with my mother, that means that my father has to stay. My father will never be able to leave. So there were these endless failed trips of trying to cross this bridge in front of my house, where trying to get to the train station, trying to get to the bus station, halfway across the bridge, and then coming back home because I couldn't leave. And there was this weird month when people were leaving, we were not leaving, and then the city was completely under siege, completely closed down, and you could never leave. Now, there were these occasional convoys that were leaving the city, and you had to be Jewish to get on the Jewish convoy, so we tried to pretend that we were Jewish. We failed. There were these Adventist convoys that were leaving the city with Adventists. We were trying to find an Adventist link. We failed. We never got out. There were convoys for Slovenians. We tried to find some kind of a link with Slovenia so we could get out of the city and leave. There were these endless attempts. My mom tried to do a master's in Holland, so we're trying to get our documents sorted. We failed. We never got out. We kept staying, and these attempts, all these attempts to leave the city were failing, and we were staying. But what happened is, by staying, I continued writing, and I continued writing this diary just for myself. But instead of noting birthday parties and how much I love Michael Jackson, I was noting how many bombs fell that day. Did we have water? Did we have electricity? Sometimes there were 900 bombs. How many people were killed that day? And I continued writing as an 11, 12, and then a 13-year-old about what was going on in my city. Until one day, there was a call out for diaries of young people that were going to maybe be published and presented to a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador at the time, who was Audrey Hepburn. So I gave my diary, and that diary eventually ended up being published and in Sarajevo. And all these journalists that were there started coming to my house and started talking to me, and I spoke English, and that was very exciting for them. This 12-year-old, actually same height as now, 12-year-old kind of was speaking in English and telling them about the war. And I guess the story is, you know, the failures of trying to leave eventually led to continuing to write this diary becoming interesting, and then publishers from the outside world, the great outside world of Sarajevo, being interested in publishing this diary. And the reason, and the only reason why my family, my father, my mother, and I left after 2 years of conflict was because of this diary. But the diary is only there because we failed to leave, because we were not Adventists or Jews or Slovenians, and Mom never got her PhD in the Netherlands. So I guess failures weave themselves into your narratives. And that is mine. That is a failure which led to a weird set of circumstances which became a success. And who knows, you know, I would have never lived in Ireland. Who knows if I'd still be here if we didn't fail to get on all those convoys. And there's another thing that I failed very badly at, that throughout all this time I had a very, very bad hair, which has been recorded. It was very Fred Savage wonder years. And that has become a picture of my youth and of me being 13, which has kind of gone out into the world, which is bad. That's a fail. Thanks.